The globalists are seething right now. You know, the global world order that's existed is now in its initial stages of what seems to be decay. The media is completely losing their minds over the election of the supposed far-right party in Italy, led by Giorgia Meloni. They keep saying that, fascism is back in Italy, that she's the successor to Benito Mussolini. Whole lot of pearl clutching going on with the globalist elite right now. And why is this such an extreme development to the globalists? Well, because Giorgia Meloni is opposed to abortion, euthanasia, and same-sex couples LARPing as husband and wife while they steal a child from his or her mother. She's extreme for saying that family is the foundation of civilization, for opposing mass immigration from North Africa, for wanting to create safer neighborhoods, and curbing rising crime. This is the most extreme point that she has. She opposes economic globalization. Obviously, not that extreme when you think about it, but liberalism has such a grip on Western society that they've portrayed the authentic right wing as extremist or whatever. For a long time, the countries that exist in the West have been ruled by progressive liberals, and it's led to decay. For anybody black-pilled on the future of Western civilization and thinks that, the West is just going to die out and it's going to decay into chaos, listen up, because this is for you. This video is for you. It's white pill central. This nationalist uprising has largely existed for less than a decade, and under a decade, look at how much ground we have taken. Look at how much the right-wing populist movement has taken back the West. Viktor Orban and the Alliance of Hungarian Solidarity has been a bastion of national conservatism across the world. The United Right was elected in Poland, the Swiss People's Party in Switzerland, and in Liechtenstein, a referendum passed to give the king absolute authority, and he used that absolute authority initially to veto every single bill to legalize abortion. We elected Trump back in 2016, and now alone in the month of September, Italy elected Giorgia Meloni, and Sweden has elected the Swedish Democratic Party. The momentum is growing behind these movements. The populist right is growing more than ever. I think we might be entering the redemption arc for Western civilization, if I'm being honest. Gone will be the evil empire that has raised the pride flag over the world and mutilated children in the name of democracy. It seems like the world is ready to embrace a movement that seeks to have the state embody the love and the nature of God. But the media is calling this new right far right, an extremist. As I pointed out, this is not an extremist movement. The positions being brought forth by this movement are not extreme. They're ones of common sense, common desire for prosperity. The globalist elite has kept an iron fist on the West of liberalism since the 1950s, and this has pushed an era of suppressed prosperity from the people, and the culmination of this has exploded in Italy. Supranational loyalties like that to the European Union have actively sought to secularize countries and strip them of their national and religious identities. Rome, the bastion of Catholicism and of Christendom for centuries, has been at the heart of this. Ever since the end of the Cold War, the globalist elite has sponsored mass migration of Muslim immigrants to Italy and many other countries in the Mediterranean. This has resulted in mass poverty, skyrocketing in violent crime, and the slow decay of nations into chaos. Homelessness is out of control. Crime runs rampant. People are not able to safely raise their families nowadays. In recent years, under the leadership of Italy's Progressive Party, homelessness has skyrocketed. Also, major cities like Rome saw a skyrocketing in sexual assault. In Rome, non-citizens are responsible for 52% of sexual assault crimes. In Milan, that number goes up to 59%. But facts can be deceiving. Don't get me wrong. But I went to Italy over the summer and I talked to a lot of natives about the stuff that they're worried about. And a mother that I talked to in Rome told me that she used to let her daughters walk to school every day for nearly 4 years. But nowadays, she no longer allows her 16 and 14-year-old daughters to walk to school out of fear of their safety. People are feeling unsafe in their own homeland, in their own neighborhoods, because millions and millions of people are being brought into their community with no care for the laws in this country or the safety of the neighbors who live there. And they're just being brought in. They're just being brought into this country to fulfill a political agenda. And now when the problem just blows up in the faces of these progressive politicians and journalists, they just sit there and tell us, don't believe your lying eyes. If you do, you're a fascist and an extremist. Literally in Germany, police are no longer allowed to record migrant backgrounds of young criminal perpetrators. They did this because in Germany, approximately 3/4 of all suspects under the age of 21 arrested for violent crimes such as sexual assault and murder are non-citizens. But no, they just sit there and they tell us that we should be compassionate. And they tell us to just sit there and watch as our sisters and daughters are forced to grow up in a community that resembles Damascus more than it does the bastion of Christendom. Because that is the price for democracy or something. But really, the West stands at a crossroads right now, where they can either go down this path of liberalism and mass migration and abortions and crime and political corruption, or they can embrace the strongman politics of the right wing for real solutions. There are already a few countries that have made the choice. I mentioned Hungary, Poland, Switzerland, Liechtenstein, and now Italy and Sweden. But let's set the record straight. The far right as it currently exists is not this mystical movement of racism and that just wants to make, Nazi Germany in America. It is a broad movement of families and working class people and teenagers who just want to grow up and have a family and children. It's authentic people with authentic problems. It's a class of disaffected people who have had their communities affected by these manufactured illnesses of liberalism. It's people who have had LGBT ideology just injected into their children's social lives at school. It's people who have turned off the TV and look at their cities and go, what the? China! There's homeless people everywhere. There are people getting killed in broad daylight. 15-year-old girls are being groomed to sell their bodies on OnlyFans. Housing prices are through the roof. Gas is unaffordable. And we have millions of illegals being treated like celebrities as they're swarming our border and committing mass crimes. Well, this ruling class of liberals has just sat there and gaslighted the people, saying, that's racist to say. You should stop thinking like that. You don't believe your eyes. And many people have just done that. Many people have gone with the program that the liberals have provided. They've surrendered their identity. They've ignored the problems. They've ignored themselves to live in a state of denial, okay? So they've turned to a class of people who have been treated as outcasts. It's people like Trump and Meloni, okay? This new class of people who's not fighting for the GDP or the imaginary numbers to go up. These are real people fighting for better lives for the average person. And what makes this movement different is the fact that these movements are not speaking to logic or fiscal responsibility like the right previously has, nor are they speaking to the left's desire to virtue signal and to show everybody how good a person they are. This is a movement that speaks to a deeper conversation about human nature and identity. Their souls, their emotions, their desires to protect their families, to be a part of something greater than themselves. I mean, just listen to Giorgia Meloni's speech.
Per chi vorrebbe che non avessimo più un'identità e che fossimo solamente schiavi, consumatori perfetti. E allora è sotto attacco l'identità nazionale, è sotto attacco l'identità religiosa, è sotto attacco l'identità di genere, è sotto attacco l'identità familiare. Non devo potermi definire italiana, cristiana, donna, madre, no. Io devo essere cittadino X, genere X, genitore 1, genitore 2, devo essere un numero. Perché quando sarò solamente un numero, quando non avrò più un'identità, quando non avrò più radici, allora sarò lo schiavo perfetto in balia della grande speculazione finanziaria, il consumatore perfetto. Questa è la ragione per la quale oggi noi facciamo tanta paura. Questa è la ragione per la quale oggi questo appuntamento fa tanta paura. Perché noi non vogliamo essere dei numeri, noi siamo qui per dire che noi non siamo dei numeri, noi difenderemo il valore della persona umana, di ogni singola persona umana, perché ognuno di noi ha un codice genetico unico e irripetibile. E questo, piaccia o no, ha del sacro. Lo difenderemo Dio, la patria e la famiglia, che fanno tanto schifo a qualcuno. Lo faremo per difendere la nostra libertà, perché noi non saremo mai schiavi e semplici consumatori in balia della speculazione finanziaria. Ecco la nostra missione, ecco perché oggi sono venuta qui. Scriveva Chesterton ormai più di un secolo fa: fuochi verranno attizzati per dimostrare che 2 più 2 fa 4. Spade verranno sguainate per dimostrare che le foglie sono verdi in estate. Quel tempo è arrivato, signori. Siamo pronti. Grazie.
Isn't that just powerful? Isn't that a powerful speech? I mean, just look at the kinds of people that make up this supposed far right. It's mobs. Like 50-year-old moms. It's working class dads, plumbers, electricians, mechanics, truck drivers, It's young men who dream about getting married and having children. It's young women who want to raise their kids in a country that's worth conserving. It's Christians who have seen God's place in society be removed from every single public institution. These politicians like Giorgia Meloni are speaking to that. And Meloni and Trump are a reaction to these kinds of conservatives who have just constantly suggested that happiness comes from material goods and buying cool gizmos or whatever. We got iPhones, so everybody's happy, right? It doesn't buy into the establishment's suggestion that all of our problems that we face are just because, things aren't accessible enough. Yeah, I mean, all these liberals are like, the increase in the suicide rate is due to the inaccessibility of mental health care. So if we just extend it, it'll fix things. Like, bruh, you've never had quicker and easier access to literally everything in the world than you do right now, okay? And yet, the people still aren't satisfied. Why? This new right is coming in and answering these questions. They're offering people solutions. tangible solution. And let's talk about what these solutions actually look like. In Italy, Giorgia Meloni has called for changes to policies of migration. She has called for a complete naval blockade to prevent migrant boats from leaving North African shores, and it's proposed screening for potential asylum seekers in Africa rather than in Europe. It's pretty much identical to Trump's Remain in Mexico policy. With taxes, Meloni has called for a reduction in the tax burdens for families, businesses, and self-employed individuals, including a flat tax abolishing citizens' income and employment benefit in order to encourage family building. This is nearly identical to Viktor Orban in Hungary, and also she's mirrored Trump-era policies to crack down on the influence of ESG, woke capitalism and abortion, and have reinforced Christian identity in her public presence, and have reinforced Christian and Catholic identity in her public presence. Do really any of these seem that radical? No. Actually, they seem like they're the only hope for Europe and Western civilization, for that matter. And this isn't the end, okay? These movements are growing. They're growing really fast. And I'm going to give my predictions on where this movement could expand to next. I already mentioned Italy, Sweden, Liechtenstein, Switzerland, Hungary, Poland, becoming bastions in this emerging right. I think that Austria is going to become the next country to join this informal coalition of nations. The Austrian Freedom Party, very base party by the way, is currently a minority in the government, but they're polling very well. And I think that when their elections roll around in 2024, they could very well become like Italy. I also think Finland could see a similar situation. They've been led by a radical social democrat party of liberal feminists and what we would call SJWs. The Finns party, a right-wing populist party, is one seat away from becoming the majority party as their elections approach in 2023, and I think that they could have a similar fate. And really, 2024 is do or die for the rest of them because able to pull through in the American presidential election of 2024, and I think it could provide that push that other countries need. And if that works out, I could see France, Slovakia, Lithuania, and potentially Denmark embracing this new right. And look, this is genuinely a good thing. Even if you're not in agreement with a lot of the policies, even if you're a neo-lib, or even a leftist for that matter, these are good developments for Europe and Western civilization. If you genuinely oppose actual fascism or actual political extremism, this is a good thing. These are good developments. Because as you look at history, you'll find that when economies crash or when society becomes unstable, people reject that instability with the equal amount of force that it's pushed in. Every action has its equal opposite reaction in politics. AKA, the crazier things get, the more radical a regime this nation needs to set things straight. And look, children are being mutilated in the masses. Migrants are being brought in the millions. Neighborhoods are having criminals imported. Economies are collapsing. Widespread blackouts are happening. There's food shortages. Things are getting pretty bad. I'm of the belief that if progressive policies continue for another 20 years, things are going to get worse. So some countries are embracing the new right to get ahead of this curve so that they can resolve these problems in a civilized way, where all people can come together under the cross in good faith to maximize prosperity for families. But if we don't embrace this new right, things are going to get worse, and your kids are going to inherit a nation that will make them resentful. Future generations are going to have to set things straight. They're going to have to bring in stability, because all of these problems will have to be solved eventually. All that you have control over is when. If you want to save your children some of the trouble, get out there and be an activist. So that's my take on the growth of the new right. I hope you guys find it insightful. I'm also working with Mr. Z to get the Factions of the Liberals video done. That will come out very, 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 very soon. Stay tuned. Thank you guys for watching. I hope you enjoyed today's episode. Support the Wolfpack by donating or join by subscribing for more content like this. I'll see you next time, Wolfpack.